Alright, so this tutorial is going to go through how we can use some of the mesh geometry that we got out of Kscan from the Xbox scanner, Kinect scanners, and how we can actually extract some information out of this for developing our garments. And so if we look at this, and we zoom in here, we have a mesh. Whitney was good enough to volunteer. We didn't go for scanning, doing a full body scan, so her head and legs and arms are a little bit out of sync. Sorry, not as resolved, but you can see that we got a pretty good scan out of this, so we can start to extract information out of this. And so what we're going to do is, first thing you guys are going to need to do is orient this, delete any extra sort of fragments out of this that you might have floating around. I've already done that. Then what you can do is you can come in here and we can use this to contour. And so we can extract curve information out of the mesh so that we can then sort of rebuild surfaces as we need to. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do that. I'll do it over 1 inch spacing. And so it's going to come in here and sort of slice and dice the model. And you can see how this is working. That's harsh. Alright, and then I'm going to move this over a specific distance. I'm just going to go 50 inches. And now I can get some content out of that, but not all that useful. But if I take this and contour this in another direction, and let's do this, if I click there to set the direction, but let's do this at 0.5 inches, and it's going to come through, and you can see it's almost like a CT scan sort of emerging. Okay, and then we can move that, and we can move that also 50 inches. That will give us a wireframe that we can extract information out of as we go through this. So I'm just going to take these guys and then intersect them. And found 2,000 intersections in here. So maybe I might be too dense, but alright. Oops. Not as much real estate as I have on my desktop. But using that, what we can do is we can come in here, and if we sort of get into this point constellation, we can start to rebuild. And you'll want to turn on your object snaps with points. Surfaces out of this. So you can use this for mapping or building complex geometries. Now you'll note as I'm doing this, like not whatever your grid system is, you want to make sure that that's going to actually work along those points. Because if I'm starting to offset these things, then I won't actually be able to unroll this later. But then what you'll see we can do is, as we scroll around, you can see I can actually start to rebuild part of this mesh through that activity here. And we'll just go. Oh. 3, 4. Alright. And so you can see what we can do to rebuild that. Okay, and so that's one of the first, and that's probably going to be the easiest and best way to get content out of that. And so you can set the resolution by setting the spacing on your contour operations. Alright, and so I'm just going to go ahead and hide all that. Alright, and so then the next thing we can do, if, say we wanted to build a surface by doing something like a loft, we can do the contour again. We'll just go vertically this time, and I'll set this to 2 because that took a good chunk of time. This will probably run faster on your guys' machines. Okay, let's pull that out. Now when you go through this, something you guys are going to observe is that this is going to be, if you set the, or select one of these guys and do the control points, you're going to discover, if this in fact runs, that we have, there's 1,200 points in this one section of this model. So it's not something you can really do much with in terms of lofting. But if you come in here and rebuild, you can decrease the point count to something maybe a little bit more manageable. 35 to 50 will probably get you there. And then it gives you sort of this maximum deviation, so we're not all that far off. And then what we can do is if we go in here and turn on the edit points, you can see it's much more manageable. And then what we can do is if we have components like this and this that are still open, we can type close curve. That will close them with a single line segment, and then you probably want to rebuild them again just so you can get that nice and smooth. You can see what that did down here, so maybe this needs a little bit more work. But anyways, once you have these guys selected, you can loft. Okay, and then you can use that to create information here. Okay. And here, I'll just escape and undo that. There are some loft settings that you guys may want to pay attention to. If you go for straight sections, I'll preview that. It'll go in between each one of those curves, and this is going to be doing also a rebuild. So it's only doing this as 25 control points. You can do this to set this to not rebuild. We get this sort of much more accurate model. And then if you unroll this surface, because it's straight sections, that makes it developable. And we can turn on our labels. We do not want to explode possible. And if we hit enter, it will give us the unfolded version of that. And so you could take this and turn off the isoparms. And you could laser cut this out in fabric and then actually stitch this together. And you probably want to explode that because you obviously know that there's some overlap there. So if we unroll that again, yeah, we want to explode. You can see what we get. Okay. And you guys can set the degree of accuracy that you want with this as you go through and remodel this. Okay. All right. And then the last thing that you want to do in here is, let's hide this out again. Well, there's two more things. Sorry. One of these other things that you can do is you can actually, I would recommend using a polyline, but then you can actually draw on the mesh. Do that when we pan around. You can see that I'm actually physically drawing on the mesh. And again, you'll be able to set the accuracy with this. Okay. So I'm going to delete that. So that'll be another way that you guys can extract information. And then I'm just gonna, let's do this. Let's do an array of 3 by 3, and then we'll do 5 by 5. Okay, and that spacing is a little bit. Alright, and so now if we're in front view, wherever you see a grid in here, that is actually the construction plane that you're actually seeing. And so if you align the construction plane and the curves that you want to project and the thing you want to project onto and activate that view, if you type project as the tool, it'll ask you what you want to use to project onto. And you can see that over here it projected onto that mesh. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hide that out so we can sort of free this up. You can see that we actually got curves applied to that. So then what we can do is we can use the patch tool to build. Let's just go through here. You can see we can rebuild some of this geometry, and you can use this however to whatever resolution you want. We can get these things to work. You can use one big curve if you want to patch a large area. You can use several small curves, however you want to do it, depending on what you want to do. So if you devise a pattern and you want to get specific information out of that, That's one way to do it. And the other thing you can do is if you project a pattern, so I'll undo all these patches and I'll explode these. So these are, well, maybe not the best set of geometries in here, so we'll go through and I'm going to go into an elevation view here. Join that. Join that. Join that. Oh. Looks like we got a little bit of these guys this time. Join these. And join those. Okay. And then we'll come in here and I suppose I could make this a lot easier on myself and just do it this way. Use your viewports. Alright, so if we join these guys together, we now have an array of curves. We can come in here and rebuild as well. So if we rebuild each one of these, say, these curves as a 1 degree curve with 2 control points, it will give us a nice clean array of curves here that we can again then use our sort of the same tectonic system that I was. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can start to rebuild that way. Okay. All right. So that's going to be all the techniques that I think you guys need to use in order to build some of the garments for the assignment.